Hello everyone. Just a quick sound check so that we are sure that everybody is joined. And if you can hear me loud and clear, just go ahead and give a shout out in the chat window so that we can start on time. I assume we have everybody here. Today we have some interesting topics set up for you guys. We have about few guys joining and few guys dropping out. Let us see if we have some more guys joining us. So can you hear me loud and clear? Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, great. We have quite a few people joined. So let me just give you one more minute so that a few more people can join, and then we can go ahead and get started. Before we go ahead and get started, let us see who we have on the room. Are you guys already working on AWS? If you are working on AWS, just go ahead and type in 1 on the chat window so we can just see a level setting of the room and choose different levels when I'm explaining something. So are you already working on AWS, and are you doing something in APIs or microservices or DevOps? Anything it can be, just go ahead and type in 1. Fantastic. We have a lot of people there. Okay. So the topic that we are going to talk about is API security. So obviously the question will be, what is an API, how to secure it will come. Then we'll start with those basics and then go ahead and see how to secure them. So before we go ahead and dive deep into what is this APIs and how to secure them, let me introduce myself. And this is Kumar here. For people who might not be familiar with me, who have not heard about me, I'm a solutions architect. I've been doing this for quite some time. I've also created a lot of content in Valaxy's YouTube channel, and also some other videos that are published in Udemy also as a structured course for people who want to learn it in that way. And I also do a lot of open source contribution in GitHub under the handle of Mystique. So you can go ahead and see all my projects. If you like them, go ahead and fork them and use them in your own projects, or give me a star or a thumbs up if you like my work there. Or I'm happy if you can fork them and give me a pull request also if you improve my projects. Fantastic. So that is about me, and what is today's session is going to be about. Today's session is going to be about an intermediate level in AWS. We are not going to talk about what is AWS, how to use AWS. I'm going to assume you already have some amount of AWS knowledge. You are using it. We will touch upon some basics, but it is not going to be like getting started kind of stuff. So that is what I mean by an intermediate level. And we are going to focus quite extensively on API Gateway service of AWS and little bit of VPCs and IAM policies to secure things. And we are going to wrap everything into something called as an CloudFormation, which is an automation standard that Amazon uses. And for writing the CloudFormation, we use CDK. And some housekeeping rules. If you have a question while I'm going through everything, use the hash question in the chat window. And if you have a suggestion, go ahead and use the hash suggestions before your text and add them into the chat window. So this makes it very, very easy for us to pick up the questions and suggestions and give you the right responses when we are going to deal with them. So if I have time in between, I will answer your questions. Otherwise, we will spend some 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session for answering your open Q&A that you might have, or if you have suggestions, we are happy to listen to them as well. So it is not just a session where I am showing something and you are just going to follow. All the code that I'm going to use today, all the automation and everything is publicly available, so you can also even follow it along with me in your own account. I have got this code tested by multiple people all across the world. We have tested in different regions. and all of the code has been successfully proven to be working. So the code is available in my GitHub account, and the description of this video will also get the link. If it is not already there, we will add it at the end of the session, so you can also go ahead and do that. And I will also show you where you can find it in GitHub. So that's about it. So let us go ahead and get started with our session. So the first basic thing that we need to understand is what is an API. What I mean by what is an API is the full form of an API is an application program interface. What it basically allows you to do is it allows you to define and contract for your clients. It might be a web client or a mobile client that wants to interact with your service or an application that you must be running in your data center or on-premise or cloud or anything. So this service A is talking to service B, and you want a contract on certain mechanism of how you want to connect to it, what data you are requesting, what is the format of the data you are requesting, and what is the format of data you're sending it back. So this contract, this whole setup is called as an API, and Amazon API Gateway allows you to deploy and manage these APIs at scale. You can do version control, you can do authorization, you can do logging, and you can do security. So that is where this API Gateway comes into picture. So if we look at it in a pictorial way, this is how it looks. You have your client on the extreme left-hand side, and the client sends a request to your API server, and that API server is going to forward that request or proxy that request to a web server on the right-hand side, and the web server may or may not talk to a database depending upon the request, and the response is sent back through the API back to your client. So this is the generic way of looking at an API. For example, whenever you log into Facebook or do something on Twitter or do a payment processing with Amazon or PayPal, everything is using APIs on the back end. So although you might not be seeing it, but you are actually consuming APIs in every single day when you're browsing the internet or using any services in your mobile phones. So when we are talking about in AWS terms, what happens is this database can be a DynamoDB database, and this web server can be a Lambda function, or it can be an EC2 instance, or any other compute services offered by Amazon. And when it comes to API, this is going to be deployed and configured in an API gateway. So this is how a simple API architecture in a serverless mode looks like. So when you have one API, you have this very simple single line flow where the request comes and hits your API gateway, and the request is forwarded to Lambda. Lambda does some processing, either talking to a Dynamo or sends back the request back to API gateway. But if you want to deploy multiple APIs, this is what it's going to look like. Your API gateway will be a single point of entry for all your requests, and then that request gets sent back to the Lambda and proxies all the requests between your client. So basically, in essence, what happens is APIs are becoming the front door of your microservices. So it is imperative that we go ahead and learn how to secure this front door and make sure your applications that are sitting behind this front door is also secure. So in this architecture, we have this API gateway, and we are going to spend the next few minutes figuring out how to secure this API gateway using different services offered by Amazon. So let us briefly talk about what is an API gateway. When we talk about an API gateway, it is a fully managed service offered by Amazon, and it makes it easy for developers to create, publish, and maintain different APIs. As I said earlier, you can do version control, you can do logging, you can do authorization, you can do canary deployments, you can do security with different mechanisms like throttling, caching, and usage plans. So you have different features available from API Gateway. And when you are talking about APIs in API Gateway, there are three different ways how you can deploy it. And the first way is, let us say you are building an API Gateway, and the first one is edge optimized. When we talk about edge optimized, nothing but Amazon creates an a CloudFront distribution to sit in front of your API Gateway. This is completely managed by Amazon. You don't have to do anything. When you're deploying it, you just say, I want an edge optimized API. Then automatically the CloudFront is added for you, and that endpoint is given to you. So this is one way of doing it. Another way is a regional API. What this means is, your API is available in a particular region. So say for example, you are deploying it in Ireland or Frankfurt or India where your users are, then Amazon creates an endpoint in that region for your API gateway, and users in that region will be having low latency. This is quite useful. Say for example, your users are only from India, for example, then you want to offer them the best experience by deploying your API in the Mumbai region or any of those edge locations that are available in India. So you can choose either of those options. Then comes the most interesting part, private APIs. So what we mean by private APIs is your API will be deployed inside your VPC. For people who might not know what is a VPC, VPC is the virtual private cloud, which allows you to isolate your resources within AWS. So unless you allow somebody to connect to your VPC, by default it is secure. Nobody can connect to it or access resources inside your VPC. So unless you do something, it is not going to be open to the internet or to other parties that are running in AWS cloud. So when you configure an API as private, what is going to happen is this API gateway endpoint will sit inside that VPC, and you need to open it to people who want to communicate it. So in the next few minutes, we are going to see how to create an API gateway and make it as a private endpoint and see how it works. So this is what we are going to do now. So this demo is going to have these are the services we are going to see today. We are going to first build a VPC, and inside that VPC, we are going to create a couple of endpoints. This is mainly for the reasons of high availability, so that your API endpoint is available in multiple subnets, and even if one availability zone goes offline, you still have one more availability zone or one of those endpoints, and you can connect them. So basically we are going to use two subnets, and then we are going to create two endpoints, and we are also going to create an API and connect this API to a Lambda function. Since this demo or this webinar is not going to focus on business logic, our Lambda function is not to our main interest. It is basically just going to say hello world when you invoke it. So we are not going to focus on the business logic of how to write a Lambda function. So even if you are not a programmer or not a coder, you don't have to worry about it. We can just deploy this automation and it should still work for you. So you have an API gateway and you also have a Lambda function behind it, and which is just going to send me a greeting message. Then we are going to connect these endpoints to my API gateway. So now we have connected everything, so we need to test it. So for testing, what we are going to do is we are going to build an EC2 instance inside this VPC, and then we are going to access this API from this EC2 instance. And the URL usually is like this in the format. You have an HTTPS URL followed by your API ID, and the white text that you see is a standard text. Of course, the region is going to be different if you're going to deploy in some other region. In this demo, we are going to use US East 1, so I just put it as US East 1. Obviously, if you're deploying it in some other region, that will change, followed by your stage variable and your API name. So this is how it is going to look like. As I said, I'm going to show you the GitHub page also. You can also follow it along with me and do it along with me, so you don't have to just listen and learn. You can also just do it because this is straightforward. You just execute a few commands and all the instructions that are how to deploy them are in the GitHub article, so you should be able to do that. So before much ado, let us go ahead and get started with the demo and see how we can do this in our account. I'm going to take you to my GitHub page and walk you through the different instructions there. Then from there, we will go to our AWS console and see what resources are there today and what resources are going to be built one by one. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code for my local development, and I'm going to do most of my stuff from there. You should be able to do that from any IDE or any dev environment that you might have. So let us go to our GitHub page now. So here we are in the GitHub page. I'm just going to take this URL and then put it into the chat window so that everybody can have a look into this. Just give me one moment. Yep. So that is the URL, and it should be available for everybody. So basically, as I said, all the instructions are there in this article, and it is all used, it is all built using a CDK, and we are just going to run some CDK commands to deploy those CloudFormation templates. So you can see all the code, everything is available. And what we are going to do is, first we are going to deploy an unsecure API. So what do I mean by that is the default nature of AWS API is it is available from the internet and everybody can access it and invoke it. So that is what we are going to see and deploy. I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and invoke it, and once you invoke it, then we will see how to go ahead and secure them. So you can see here the instructions for cloning the repository and performing the other actions. So I've already done step 2 and 3. Basically, I've just cloned this repository to my local dev environment, and let me just open my Visual Studio Code here. You should be able to see my Visual Studio Code. So what I've done here is I have all the stacks available here. You just do a git clone and then cd to the directory, and then enable your virtual environment. Then obviously you should be able to see the same prompt as me. Apparently my dev environment seems to be slow today. Okay, so we have got 4 stacks, but before going ahead and deploying these 4 stacks, let me walk you through to my account. And right now, if you see in my AWS console, you can see there are no stacks that are deployed. And if I take you to my API Gateway page, and remember I'm in Virginia, we are going to use Virginia for most of the activities today. There is one API called Campaigns API. Let us leave that for now. That was some testing that I did. This is a public API, and it is deployed as a regional endpoint, as you can see. But what we are going to do now is we are going to deploy a new API, which is going to be called as an unsecure API, and then we will go ahead and access them. And there are no VPCs also in my account. I mean, the default ones are there, but this stack will go ahead and create a new VPC as well. So just to reiterate, if you are going to do it, go ahead and do step 1 and 2. I am already at step 3, preparing this environment. I have done all this step, and I have also shown you how to list my stacks. So I'm going to start from step 4 in this demonstration, just in the interest of saving time for all of us, because we can spend more time explaining what is happening. So the first step, as I said, we are going to deploy something called as an unsecure public API. And to do that is a straightforward command. We are just going to run cdk deploy unsecure public API. And I'm going to run all these commands from my Visual Studio Code. So all you have to do is just do cdk deploy unsecure API, and what this is going to do is it is going to create a CloudFormation template of my API gateway and the Lambda function and the necessary roles. And remember, CDK is a very nice tool. It creates all those privileges for you automatically, and make sure those privileges are really fine-tuned for what you are doing. There are no star privileges when you're writing permissions with the CDK. So that is one thing that I really like about doing things with CDK. So as you can see on the screen, what is happening now is it is created an CloudFormation template, and the first step is creating a secure role for my Lambda function. It keeps updating. So let us go to our console and check what is happening. So here we are in the CloudFormation console. You can see here there is an unsecure public API is getting built. And if I go to my events first, you can see there are multiple events, but I think it is better to go to resources, so we can see what resources are getting built. So you can see here there is an REST API that is getting built, and also a Lambda function. There must be a Lambda function somewhere. Here you go. There's a Lambda function. So once this once this stack is completed, we should be able to see the API URL in my output section. I think it is already completed. So you can see the create complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this into the chat window so that all of you can try it. And remember, what I've done is I have built in some security mechanism so that only one invocation per second can happen. So I'm also going to put it into my browser here so that other people can also check it. It should basically give you a greeting message saying, hi Mystique, hello from Lambda, and this is the Lambda IP address that you see there. So I would like to see if somebody else can also invoke it and see if you got some replies. If you got some replies, can I see some confirmation in the chat window saying that it is working for you? I'm just going to give a pause for a minute so that we will see how many people are able to access that URL and give me a confirmation that it is working. The reason that I want to all of you guys to test this URL in the browser is to demonstrate the point that this is a public API now. If you just deploy it by default in an API gateway and put a Lambda function in the back end of it, what happens is this is invocable by anybody. Anybody grabs hold of this URL, you should be able to invoke it and get a result. But that is not we want in an highly secure environment. For example, if you're dealing with personally identifiable information, or some banking data, or some healthcare information, then you don't want everybody to invoke your URL. So you want to secure it. So in those cases, how do you do that? So that is the problem that we are trying to solve today. So I see quite a few people updating saying it's working and they're able to access. So this is what we are going to do. I'm going to deploy another API, and this time, as I said, I'm going to create a VPC and make an endpoint connection to the VPC, and then put an API inside that VPC and then try to access it from the public. So before going ahead and invoking that, I want you to have a look at my VPC services so that we know what is getting built, and then we can do a comparison also later. So let me just duplicate this page. So my VPC is getting loaded, and right now under VPCs, I think I should have the default VPC. There should not be more than that. I do a lot of testing, so I don't remember exactly how many VPCs are there. Let that load. Apparently there seems to be a lot of delay today. So you can see here there's only a default VPC, which is a 172 series. So why I'm showing this is we are going to create a brand new VPC with a 10 dot series. And once we have the VPC, what the template will also do is, if you go to your endpoint section, it is going to create an VPC endpoint. Typically there are quite a few clicks and you need to know what is the URL looks like and a lot of things. So I packaged everything so that you can do that easily in your own accounts. And let us go ahead and trigger the deployment in our Visual Studio Code and come back and see what happens. So I'm going to take you to my Visual Studio Code here. So again, I'm going to do CDK ls, and if you notice, we have already deployed the unsecure API. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to deploy the VPC stack first and then the secure API URL. So let us go ahead and do that. I assume you are able to see my Visual Studio Code. The font size is big enough because it's already too big for me to work around. So I hope you can manage it. So I'm going to deploy my VPC stack here. So this is going to create a very simple VPC, and we are not going to create any NAT gateways or any NAT instances. So this should be very easy for anybody working with a free tier account also. You should be able to run it without incurring any cost in your account. So it is creating our VPCs, and typically it takes about a couple of minutes for the VPC to get created, if I'm not wrong. And let us go back to our console. So under VPCs, I should be able to see a new VPC coming up here. So you can see here there is an secure private API VPC stack here, and I'm going to filter this. Okay, this is not working, so let me just refresh my screen. So once we filter it, we should be able to navigate to other services quite easily. So let me filter it there. So let us go to our endpoints, and still my endpoints are not created. So in a short while, once we deploy our API, secure API, our endpoints will also get created. So let us go back to CloudFormation and see if our stack is completed. We can go ahead and check our Visual Studio also to check whether it is completed, but let us do it here. Yeah, our VPC stack is completed now, and I'm going to deploy my secure private API next. That is the next stack that we want to deploy. So let us go to our Visual Studio Code and go ahead and deploy our secure private API stack. CDK deploy, and you can see here there is a secure private API. I'm going to trigger the deployment here, and what this is going to do is it is going to create an API, add an endpoint inside my VPC, and it is also going to add a very interesting other security pieces which I did not show in my image. What it is you are going to have a security group attached to your VPC endpoint now. So basically you can say which IP address, what is the source IP address, what is the source port that can talk to my API gateway. And in addition to the security group, you are also going to attach an resource policy, because for creating an endpoint, a resource policy is also important. Once the stack is deployed, I will take you to my console and see where are these configurations that are getting configured, and which I'm talking about right now. So you can see here on the screen, there is an VPC endpoint that is getting created. So let us go to our AWS console and see where these resources are getting configured and how you can visually check them. So I'm going to take you to my VPC endpoints now, and inside my VPC endpoints, I'm just going to refresh my screen, and hopefully we should be getting 2 endpoints. So you can see here the status is pending here, and in a short while we should be able to see that available. And if I take you to my subnets, we will see 2 endpoints for each of those availability zones, that is one in 1A and another one in 1B. So these are the 2 endpoints that has been created. And if I go to my security groups, you can see here there's a security group dedicatedly created for my secure private API endpoint, and this is going to be attached to my API also. So where it is going to get created, let us go to our API dashboard. If you remember, when we started this demo today, there was a campaigns. There should be 2 more APIs available now. Okay, I think my stack is still creating. So once the stack is completed, we should be able to see the secure private API as well. So I'm going to wait for a moment. So once this stack is completed, under output section, we should be able to see the secure private API URL also in this section. So this is going to take a minute. While this is getting deployed, what I'm going to do is, okay, let me keep it in the stack info so that we can check the status. I'm going to look at the comments and see if there are any questions and if I can answer those questions in the meantime. So just to recap, what we have done so far is we deployed a public API, and we checked the URL in the chat window and everybody was able to access it. Now we are deploying a private API, and once the stack is completed, we should be having an URL, but that should not be accessible by everybody. Even for me also, it should not be accessible because it can be accessed only from within the VPC. So we need to create some machines inside the VPCs, like an EC2 instance or a Lambda, to invoke the API. So that's what we are going to check in a short while. I'm going to refresh my screen and see whether the stack is getting created. So this is complete. So I think it should be done now. Apparently not. Okay, let us go ahead and see what resources are pending now. Okay, yeah, it just got changed to create complete. If I go to my output section, and you will find there is a secure URL, and I'm just going to copy this and put it into the browser window and also in the chat, so you guys also go ahead and check it. And if you have a Linux utility, like you can do an NS lookup or a dig for this URL, and you should be able to see something like unable to find this URL or unable to resolve this URL. So I'm going to put it into my browser here, and I should be getting the same response. You can see here it says the site cannot be reached, and there is some error in the URL. So can I get some quick confirmation from you guys also? If you check this URL, what happens? Is anybody able to access this URL? And remember, I spoke about something called as and resource policy. So before I go ahead and deploy an VPC EC2 instance, I want to walk you through with the secure resource groups. So if I navigate to my API Gateway API, and on the left hand side you will find something called as an resource policy. And in this resource policy, you can see there is a default deny policy, and it is allowing only from my VPC only. So this policy gets automatically built for you by the CloudFormation stack that I have created. It automatically takes your VPC endpoint and it attaches that VPC endpoint to the source VPC, and if that is not matching, then your request is denied automatically. So this is the resource policy, that one type of security, and we already saw the security group also. If we go here and check out this security group, and you will notice that it has access only from within that VPC in the inbound rules. So this just says that only from this VPC, and only if it is the port is 443, the access is allowed. If it is from anywhere else, the access is going to be denied. So as I shown in my browser window, this is the unsecure URL still working, and this is the secure URL. As you can see here, it is not working. So the only way to access it is from an EC2 instance or some resource inside the VPC, and we are going to do that right now. I'm going to build an EC2 instance in my VPC. For that also we have an CloudFormation template to get us quickly there, so we can spend more time learning how to do things. So I'm going to take you to my Visual Studio Code, and we are going to deploy the last stack that comes along with this automation. So let us go ahead and deploy the last stack. I think it is called as API Consumer. Okay, I missed the word there. CDK deploy API Consumer. And what this is going to do is it is going to create an EC2 instance with Amazon Linux, and it is going to build an IAM role also, so that we can connect to that instance from the browser instead of using SSH keys. So that is a very secure way, so that even you can also use the same CloudFormation template in your account without worried about which keys should I use, and having a key-based authentication, which is, in my opinion, is not the best way of doing things. So let us wait for a few minutes until this EC2 instance gets built, and let us go back to our console and see what stages of build that has been happening. In CloudFormation, we should be able to see one more stack that is getting built. We have API Consumer. Let us also open the EC2 instance in the meantime. And the most interesting thing about this automation that I have done is, if you remember, EC2 instance AMIs are region bound, but I have built in some mechanisms into the template itself. If you're interested, you should go and check it out, because you can deploy this template in any region, and you should be able to successfully launch an Amazon Linux instance in that region automatically, because we are using Amazon provided SSM parameter key store for picking up the AMI IDs. So it's a nice and nifty trick so that you can make your template reusable across multiple regions without hard coding things. So my stack is still working through stuff so that it is still not created the instance. Let us go here. So you can see here there is an instance profile, that is the IAM role is getting created. This is the role, and that is the instance profile that is getting created. Usually this takes about a few minutes for coming online. So I'm going to use this time to see if there are any questions that needs to be answered, so that we can come back and check it out. So there is a question, can you walk through the code? Well, the code is in GitHub. If you are interested, I will recommend you to go ahead and check out my Udemy course on CDK. That will help you to understand how this code has been written and how the automation is structured. If you're talking about the Lambda code, because there are two types of code. One is the infrastructure automation, another one is the business logic of Lambda. The Lambda code is pretty much straightforward. It is just one line which says, welcome to this world, I'm running on this IP address. So we have new events. So we have got a web server getting created. Or if there is enough interest on what is the code, on how CDK is getting built, we can do a separate workshop on CDK, because we already did it about 3 weeks back, I think. What is CDK, how CDK works, how to install it. I would highly recommend you to go ahead and watch that live stream that is in our account. It should be in one of the playlists, and where we covered what is CDK, and this is the third stream in the same series. So we got our instance up and running, and if I just walk you through my instance, you can see here there is an API, IAM role, which is having the necessary permissions, which allows me to log into this instance without an SSH key. If I can show you, you can see here the key pair is empty. There is no key pair at all in this account, and I just have a security group which is having a default rules. If I click on my inbound rules, you can see it is within the same security group, within the same VPC. I can have port 443, and outbound is all outbound is allowed. So I'm still going to log into this instance by using this nifty trick. Because I built it with Amazon Linux, it has the SSM agent, and I also added the permissions in my IAM role. So it allows me to log into this instance. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to increase this font, because last time itself people said they were not able to see it. So I'm going to hope that this is big enough so that everybody can check it out. So by default it is in shell. I'm just going to jump to bash shell. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy this unsecure URL and going to do a curl for this URL from my server now. So the command is as simple as just doing curl and then the URL, and if everything is working fine, I should be able to get a response. You can see here this is the same response that you get when you are executing it from your own browser. Since I have a plugin, it looks like this, but if I go to my raw format, you should be able to see it here, the same thing that you are getting here. So if you remember, I asked you to do a dig or an NS lookup. So that is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to do NS lookup of, we just need the domain name. We don't need the everything here. So I'm just going to copy this domain part. And I'm going to put it into my NS lookup here. And it is going to resolve to my VPC DNS router. So usually when you create an VPC and enable with DNS routing, the .2 IP address is your DNS server, and port 53, UDP port 53 is where your DNS responds to. But the interesting thing is these two IP addresses, my interface is responding to these interfaces. So if I take you to my endpoints, Let me reset my screen again, otherwise it's too difficult to see here. So let us go back to our endpoints, and under subnets you can see here it is 10.2.128 and 10.3.202, and you will be able to see the same IP addresses that are responding to my NS lookup here. So basically what happens is, when I am trying to request this traffic from this domain name, it is sending that information to my VPC, and my VPC API Gateway is responding back with that response. So basically what this proves to the point is, you have deployed an API and made it accessible only from your VPC, and it is accessible from the IP address only inside your VPC and no other resources, whether it is the internet or whether it is public, nobody can access it. So that is all I had for today's session of explaining what a public API does and how to secure them with a private endpoint for your VPC, how to add a resource group for your secure API, how to add an security group as well. I would say highly try it in your account. If you have any problems, go ahead and raise a GitHub issue. And as I said, I have tested this template with multiple people. It worked with quite a lot of them in different AWS regions without any errors. But if there are still you are encountering errors, go ahead and raise a GitHub issue. Or if you think that you can write it better, then send me a pull request. I'm happy to merge them. So what I'm going to do in the rest of the time is, we have about 18 minutes, I think. I'm happy to take some questions from you guys, and we can go forward from there. And there was a question about where can I learn more? Where do I find out more about CDK? So I'm just going to quickly show you that CDK is something that is developing really fast, and a lot of people are showing interest. I have spoken to a couple of customers in the last 1.5 months, and they are really adopting CDK for their production workloads. One of them is a big enterprise company, and another one is also an equally big enterprise company, media company. So there are different companies adopting it, and I can say that if you are investing your time in learning CDK, then you will not finding that has gone waste. And you can find more information in the description of this video. You will find the link to the CDK structured learning, and you can check it out when you get time. So while we are watching it, the other benefit of CDK that I'm going to demonstrate is I can go ahead and destroy all these stacks just from my terminal. If you remember, we have created a ton of resources in my account. We have created VPCs, API gateways, security groups, log groups, IAM roles, and EC2 instances. The best part of it I like about CDK is going ahead and destroying it in one simple command. So that's what I'm going to show you now, because deleting it through the console is hell of a pain, especially when you're learning, because there are a lot of resources and some of them might end up incurring cost. But with CDK, it is very easy to go ahead and destroy them. So I'm just going to just name all my stacks and say yes when it's asking for a confirmation. So what this is going to do is this is going to clean up my account as good as new, and it will remove all the resources that was built in my account. You can see here it has already started destroying the API consumer, just to show you that this is taking into action. If I go back to my CloudFormation, let me reset the screen size. You can see here in a short while all of them will get destroyed one by one. So that is what I wanted to show you. And finally, let us go to our Q&A section. And if you have any questions, I would highly recommend you to go ahead and type them with the hash question, and I am going to answer them one by one now. So we have a question which says, so what are the ways we can monitor services up in production? Well, this stack that I have deployed right now and showed you has built-in hooks for CloudWatch. Almost all the information, for example, the Lambda invocations and the API invocations, everything is logged into CloudWatch, or basically logged, and the log information is sent to CloudWatch. So you have this default CloudWatch metrics. On top of that, you can create your own metrics. So that is one way. You have native monitoring available. If that is not enough, then you can push this logging information, because anyway you are running it in AWS, so you're logging in AWS. You can push this log into some third party like Splunk or New Relic or any favorite tool of yours, maybe Prometheus, maybe Grafana, whatever fancy tool that is available there, or your team likes it, then you can use them as well. It basically depends upon what is the metric that you want to monitor and what tooling that your company has. So we have another question, how to report production health efficiently, how to deploy monitoring tool, how do you do URL monitoring, how do you health. Very interesting question. Probably we can do it, take up another session on how to monitor APIs with canary deployments or things like that. Thanks for the feedback, Suraj. I can look into that for a future live stream. How, Mr. Krishna? Thank you for your question. How do we handle cross-region functional calls with respect to API Gateway? That is a very interesting question. First of all, if latency, assuming latency is something that you have already considered and not a problem, then you can have Route 53 resolvers. So basically Route 53 can proxy your API calls to your private APIs, and you can do it that way. Or if you are not interested in using private Route 53, then you can have your own internal DNS also to route your request, or your internal direct connect IP routing also, you can use that. So there are different ways you can proxy the request across regions. Inter-region pairing with auto overlapping IP addresses, yes, that can help. And of course, there is another nifty feature which I learned recently. If you remember, we are restricting the private API using the VPC resource endpoint in the resource group. So that VPC endpoint can be from another account also. I need to check whether it can be from another region also. That I need to check, but I would recommend you to check it out and let me know also. When I get time, I will check it out and see if that can work across regions. And just as a reminder, as you can see on your screen, if you can use the hash questions before typing in your question, it makes it easy for me to understand what is the question, what is the generic comment, and respond to you guys. Otherwise, we'll be spending too much time looking for questions and missing out the important ones which might benefit everybody. So we don't seem to have any other questions right now. So I had a special guest waiting with me. Probably if time permits, what I will do is I will have a special guest, one of my colleagues. We can invite him and see if we can do a quick Q&A with my colleagues. So I'll wait for another 5 minutes. If no other questions turns up in the chat, then we will do a very short Q&A with my colleague. So there is a question from Mr. Suraj which says, can you please explain Python script that run CloudWatch query and return log? I would highly recommend you to rephrase it because I am not able to understand what is the question there. If you are asking me, can you run a Python script to query CloudWatch? Yes, I have seen this question on the Valaxy YouTube channel comments also. And the answer is yes, you can do that. So probably the point is not getting across. So if you're, I'm just going to type it as saying hash questions is what you need to prefix so that I will be able to get it up in my prompt. Otherwise, I will not see your questions coming up on my chat. So if you're waiting or looking for answers and you're not getting it, probably you're not prefixing your question with hash questions. Otherwise, it gets ignored in our filters. So there is some automation that is being implemented on our chat. So I see our so while I'm waiting for questions, I just want to quickly take you to my browser console. You can see here almost all my stacks have completely destroyed. You can see that's the power of CloudFormation and the CDK for you. Basically, without even touching my console to click on a few thousand times, if I have to deploy this manually, just the deployment time would have been at least 15-20 minutes. Now I was able to explain to you in a concept and then show a demo also in about 30 to 40 minutes. So that's the power of CDK for you. So going back to the questions, I see something from Mr. Sandeep Gupta, which says API Gateway plus throttling. Well, I don't understand what is the question. Yes, API Gateway supports throttling. I am working on a demo to demonstrate that, but I don't see a question there. Probably I have to guess what is the question. If somebody else understands, so what is the question there? Please do help me here. Okay, apparently there is not any question. So what I would like to do is I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Shankar. Can you speak something, Mr. Shankar? Can you say something so that we can?
Hey,
And
hope it is audible.
yeah, I just want to quickly check from my guest also, from the people on listening on the live stream. Can you hear Mr. Shankar? Shankar, just quickly go ahead and say hi a few words so that let us see if those people can hear you.
Yep, definitely. And this session is nice. Even I am new to CDK, okay, because it's a long time I worked on CDK. Sorry, not long time on AWS. So a very nice session, and you have combined multiple demos in a single session, and it's wonderful. And hopefully, it is helpful for the people who are joined over here. And just give you a thumbs up if you guys could able to do that one, or just give one as initially we started, if you could able to follow us without any issues.
Fantastic. Thanks for the feedback, Shankar. The reason that I brought in here was just to see if we can do a Q&A, something that we have been discussing on the channel, and just to get feedback from the audience here and see if people are interested. So, guys,
Yes.
There is a okay. Before I go ahead, there is a question from Sandeep. Can you please explain API gateway plus throttling? On which scenarios we can use API gateway and throttling? Well, basically, if you have more, okay. Since I want to get to the other topic, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on API gateway and throttling, and almost definitely the next live stream we will do on API gateway and throttling. So just to give an one-line explanation, if you have multiple people hitting your APIs and that is degrading the service for everybody else, like for example, a one malicious actor hitting your API with the 10,000 requests per second, and you have another 99 people having degraded service, then you want to restrict that one person who is degrading the service for everybody else. So you can do an restriction based on IP address, or restriction based on the browser agents, or some bots that they might have deployed. So this is an one-line description of where throttling is really helpful. So I am working on a demo right now, and most probably the next week's live stream will be on API gateway security using throttling. And if it is not in the next week, we will be definitely doing it in the coming weeks and do something else in the next week. So that is the one-line definition. And going back to the other thing that I want to talk about with Shankar is, guys, this is a question for all of you also. Shankar also can chime in. We are planning to invite one of our industry experts and colleagues who have been working in AWS and DevOps and multiple clouds, and bring them to our channel and share their expertise. So for the people, about 20, 22 people or 30 people who are listening in, the question for all of you, go ahead and put in the chat window with a thumbs up or one, saying if you would be interested to hear something like that, or you would like a specific person like a solutions architect or a security person or a hiring manager to come and share their experience of what is requested from people who are joining in. So this is a request. Shankar, if you have a few words, you can just add to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, that is what we were discussing. So if we bring an industry expert, it is easy or helpful for the people who are trying to find out how exactly the real world happens and what kind of challenges we are getting in our day-to-day life. So they can able to understand in the different guys perspective or different level perspective. Like as we discussed, we may bring a guy who is working on AWS services on day to day, and also who is giving solutions on AWS. Similar way, even on DevOps, what do they do in day to day, and solution level, how DevOps implementation or planning does happen. So this kind of people definitely is going to helpful for the people, and also the guys who are hiring, what kind of things they will look into a candidature before finalizing for the job. So this kind of people definitely is going to helpful for the our community. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe people can give the right what I can say answer in the chat window. Maybe you guys can give what kind of people or from what kind of people do you want to listen more, and if you are accepting to what I can say receive such kind of content in our channel, just give a thumbs up or one, so that we can plan it accordingly.
Yep, thanks for that nice introduction for what we're planning to do, Shankar. So I already see some ones, at least 3, 4, 5 I can count. Probably we should change the number so that we can do a count easily. Probably we need another number to do these polls. There is somebody thanking somebody also for getting a job. That is interesting. I think it is for you, Mr. Shankar, that appreciation is.
Yeah, it's collectively for Valaxy Technologies. It goes to Valaxy Technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks and congratulations, Sandeep Gupta.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about it. Yeah, congratulations. It's a very tough time, and a lot of people are trying to change jobs or find new jobs or shift careers. So our aim is to help some of you, or if you're already in a job, move higher in the ladder, or if you're not doing APC or like automation or security or DevOps, then help you along one step, so moving the needle. So that is what these interviews or meet your experts are going to come in the coming days, along with our regular sessions on security and automation. So we are almost on time, and thank you very much for your feedback, and thanks for sticking to us till the end. And we will see you in the next live stream then. Thank you very much, guys. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. See you. Bye bye.
Bye.